Your journey can only begin when the self-doubts stop. The first step is harnessing your bravery within. Believing in you is your host, John Williams. Hello and good day to you all. My name is Sean, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in to another Persevering as an Introvert episode on Bravery Within. Okay, guys, I know there's a lot of introverts that listen to these podcasts, and I know I have some extrovert family and friends, and you're all my extended family and friends, and I know you listen out there. But this one here is for my introvert family out there and friends. This one's probably going to be a little bit harder for you to get through on this episode, because I'm going to be honest, I still have a lot of learning to do. Even though that I'm talking about this, I still have a lot of learning to do, and I'm going to warn my friends and family out there to get ready to scream at the speakers they have in their car or on their phone or on their computer, however they're listening, because I know they're going to say, Sean, you need to take some of your own advice. So I'm just putting that out there before we even get started. And I just want to be upfront with all my introvert friends out there and family members about this episode. This one's probably going to be a little bit harder for you to get through, just basically because there's a lot of self-introspection that you're going to be going through on this one here, and it's going to be challenging your core beliefs. And let me tell you, there is nothing more difficult than re-examining and changing your core beliefs. So, episode 12 is all about knowing your value. And I wanted to talk about this today because I actually got into a conversation here a couple weeks ago and stuff with a friend. And she's also an introvert. She keeps to herself. And she was really having a hard time because she kept saying there that, well, I feel like I'm losing myself. I feel like I don't know who I am. And I said, I don't understand why you think that. So tell me a little bit about it. And so she got to telling me a little bit about the story about how she was brought up and the things that she does on a daily basis, you know, going to work, and then you change for this person, you go home and you change again. And, you know, when you have kids, you change for them, and your partner, you change again. And I told her, I said, I know exactly what you're feeling, because I went through that for probably the first 35 years of my life. I was actually raised to where I'm a people pleaser, and I still am today. And it's something I like to do. I like to try to help people. I like to try to make sure everybody's smiling, having a good time, and being there for them, you know, as much as I possibly can. But there is a serious downside to being there for everybody else constantly. And I'm not saying that I regret my decisions. I'm not saying that I regret who I am. I know what my core beliefs are. But for the first 35 years, I'll be very honest, I didn't know who I was. Because literally, I was raised where, okay, well, if this set of friends come over, then you're this person. You change you change what you say, you change your mannerisms, you change, your thought process. And then these other people come over, and so you change again. Or a family member comes over, so then you change again because, this is how they see you and this is how they like to see you. That's very nice, and it's, for us that do that, and I know there's a lot of you out there, and it's kind of an introvert trait to do that, to change to fit the situation, change to fit the person that you're with. I couldn't tell you how many times that I never intermixed and mingled friends of mine because they wouldn't get along. I mean, there were two completely different groups, but when I broke it down, there was, after I'll be honest, after my divorce and stuff, I had to go back and re-examine who I was. I had to actually learn who I was. I didn't know who I was. I'll be very honest. I mean, when you're with somebody so long, you start picking up their traits and their mannerisms, and you change to fit that person because that's who you are. You love that person, and you change. And I really had to do a lot of soul searching. Finding out, I mean, you always have your basic core beliefs, and we'll go over those in a few minutes, which I think some of them are, and hopefully they align with what you believe. But changing yourself constantly to fit the situation or to fit a certain group of people is so draining. I didn't realize how tiring it was until I actually started paying attention to it a little bit more. Like I said, after my divorce, I had to basically go back and learn who I was, because as I was growing up, I literally changed for every person. And then I got into management, and management requires you to keep a distance from the people you work with, because you might have to fire them, you might have to reprimand them, you might have to send them home for the day. There's always, the managers always have to do the bad things, the stuff that nobody else wants to do. And that leaves you to where if you let people get close to you, that can actually mess with your objectivity. It's harder to pull the trigger when you need to make a decision, because if you get to know those people and you know, like, oh, well, okay, well, I know that they have a wife or husband and 3 kids and a puppy and 2 mortgages and 3 car payments, or whatever it is. You start weighing all of that stuff in to your decisions, and you can't do that. So when you become a manager, you just naturally put on another face, just like what I've been talking about, and you keep people at a distance. Well, with all of these changes, I mean, I was different for my parents. I was different for my friends. I was different for my ex-wife. I was different for my son. I was, every time I turned around, somebody would see me in the store, I would automatically change to whatever they were used to seeing. And that, I have to admit, that is so tiring. And it gets hard after a while, but I think I figured it out after I got divorced, and I was sitting down trying to figure out who I was and re-examine my core beliefs and trying to figure out, okay, how many faces do I really have on? How many times do I change for people? And I think I come up with a number at the time. Now granted, this was 13 or 14 years ago when I was doing this. Well, 14 since I'm 49. I think I come up with 14 different faces that I was constantly putting on. And my personality would change, my mannerisms would change, my thought process all itself would change. And I looked and I go, my goodness, that is so tiring. How in the world did I do it? Well, the problem was I was having a hard time with it, trying to keep up. I was constantly drained. I was constantly feeling just run down, empty inside. I felt kind of like a shell. And that was really tough to admit to myself. So I went to, of course, where everybody else goes to anymore, and Google, and I started trying to figure out who I was and learning, because I knew who I was has value. I needed to start figuring out how to not so much put a price tag on it, but I needed to find out what's my worth. What beliefs do I have? What core beliefs do I have? How am I going to keep myself straight and narrow, where I can choose one face and the whole world sees it, and that's all. I don't need to change for everything, and to be comfortable with myself, because that's why I changed so much. I was raised that way, and that's old world thinking, is you changed with the person, always whoever you're with the friends, family members, whatever it is, you just changed. And as an introvert, one thing that I've never been real good at is confrontation. And I know that makes me sound kind of like, well, you're kind of a fraidy cat. Well, I suppose in some respects I am. But when you're a people pleaser like me, it makes me a great salesman. I mean, I could talk Eskimo into a refrigerator. I mean, I'm pretty good at it. There's very few things I'm good at, but that is one of them. I'm a pretty good salesman. And what I learned was I had to figure out, okay, who am I? And that is, if you've ever not asked yourself that question, when you have a few minutes, turn on, even you leave some soft music on if that's what you want. For me, I leave classical music on, but leave some soft music on. Sit down with a piece of paper, write down that question at the header, and who am I? ? And start seeing if you could write down the qualities that make you, your likes, your dislikes, your core beliefs, and everything else. And you will find it is so much harder to write that information down. Some of you are going to be able to breeze right through it. No arguments there. My extrovert friends and stuff, I'm sure could probably cruise right through it. But if you were to actually sit down and analyze your core beliefs and what makes you you, and actually look at it and be genuinely honest with yourself, you're going to find that question is so very difficult. And you know how long it took me to answer that question? It took me 6 months after my divorce to answer that question. Who am I? And you would think that would be the most simplest question that you could ask yourself. But I couldn't. I honestly could not come up. I talked to my mom at the time. She was alive at that time, and we were sitting on the deck, and I was sitting there, and she could see the befuddled look on my face, and she goes, "What are you thinking about?" Because I'm sure my mind was going 1,000 miles an hour like it always does. And she looked, and I said, I went through the divorce. I was there for my son. I put on a strong face for him. I made sure his needs are taken care of. Kept him in school, kept the routine as much going as I can. Got through all the divorce paperwork, started paying on the massive debt that I had to take care of, and everything else, get the new house settled into place. But all of these distractions kept me away from that core question, who am I? And it was like, I told her, I said, I honestly don't know. And she goes, "That's not surprising if you really want to know the truth." And I said, "How is it not surprising?" She goes, "You've went through a major life change." She says, she says, "I did my best to raise you with values and morals and beliefs." And she says, "You did a very good job maintaining those through your marriage and everything else." She says, "I know you worked on trying to keep it working and trying to keep it going." But she says, along the way, she says, the longer it went on, she says, I could see you losing yourself. And it wasn't just the marriage, she said. She says it was your work. Your work was draining you. She said your friends were draining you. She said you were trying to take care of your ex-wife. You were trying to take care of your son. You were trying to take care of all the puppies, everything else that goes right along with it. And she says, unfortunately, who you were and your healing time and everything else took a back seat. She says, you put everything right on the back burner, and you've always done that for everybody else. And I sat there and I looked and I said, I have? And keep in mind, I'm 35 at this time. You would think by now that I would have a clue about who I was and what I was doing. But it had become so second nature to put everybody else first that everything that I did and who I was all took a back seat. And it didn't even register to me, because it was like, okay, well, I changed for this person. I changed for this set of friends. I changed for that set of friends. I changed for myself at work. When I come home, I changed for my son. I have all of these different faces. I said, I put a different face on for you and Dad. I said, when I come over, because I said, this is what you guys want to see. You don't want to see the pain that I'm going through. You don't want to see the problems and everything else, because I don't want to put that on you, because you guys have enough of your own. The last thing that you need is my problems and what's bothering me. And she looked at me, she says, that's why I'm your mom. She says, you're supposed to talk to me. She says, I can help you through some of these questions. She says, I can't help you all. She says, I can't tell you, you said core beliefs. She says, I can't tell you what your core beliefs are. She says, that's something that only you can tell yourself, and those are the things that you believe in, and those are the things that you live by. And I said, okay, well, I agree with everything you said, but this is going to take time. She says, of course it's going to take time. She says, there's nothing deeper than your core beliefs. And that really resonated with me, and that stuck with me. And like I said, it took 6 months before I could start. I literally had that piece of paper sitting in my bedroom, looking at me every day. When I would get up and I would get ready for work, I would look at that piece of paper, and on the header it says, who am I? With a question mark. And I couldn't answer it. It made me so frustrated. At one point, I ended up just crinkling up the paper and throwing it away. It's like, I'm never going to be able to answer this question. And I felt like, okay, well, I kind of let Mom down, and I gave up too easily. So then I got another piece of paper out a week later and wrote the question down again in the header. And I let it sit there, and it was kind of gnawing at me. And I thought, how am I going to figure this out? So what I did is I started out by, it was one day that I was by myself. I don't know if it was a Saturday or Sunday or what it was, but I was alone in the house, and I sat at the table, and I started writing down my likes, my dislikes. That helped me get started on finding out who I was. And the problem was I had a very, very hard time even writing those down, because I felt like I was being selfish and thinking all about me. But the problem was I needed to think all about me, because I've come to the belief that for so many years, and I still do it to today, and I'm sure my family's screaming already into the speakers and stuff. They're yelling at me saying, Sean, listen to yourself. But I still do it today, where I put everybody else first. I mean, that's just something that I can't stop. It's who I am. Like I said, I'm a people pleaser. I want to be there to help people. I want to be able to do whatever I can to make things better. But one thing that it cost me is I didn't know who I was because I did all these changes. So I slowly, it took, like I said, it took 6 months. I would write something down. I tried to force myself every day to write one thing down on that piece of paper to say, okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. This is my belief. This is, this is what I believe in. Okay, so I had to go back to the book and what do I mean by core values? So I started writing down dependability. I've always thought I was extremely dependable. I'm always to work 15, 20 minutes early. I stay late if necessary. Loyalty. I do my very best to always be loyal to my friends and my family as much as I absolutely can. I've tried to never break that. I'm not perfect at it. Keep in mind I'm human. And so are you. Nobody's 100% at any of these. Commitment, open-mindedness, friendship. I try to be the best friend that I absolutely can. One thing that I've had to do working on was mental health, and this was a huge one for me, especially if you're listening to my weight loss series. The mental battle that you fight when losing weight is bigger than the physical battle, trying to get rid of the fat and everything there. So I had to start working on, I had to start protecting my mental health. And of course, I didn't start learning that until last year on January 1st, that I had to start giving up all the grudges and the hatred and everything else that I was hanging on to. Perseverance. I've always, being a Taurus, once we set our mind to something, it's nothing, almost nothing can derail us at that point. So, perseverance is the thing. That's why I chose that name for the introverts and stuff. There's persevering as an introvert, because you're always having to push through. You're always having to try to do better. So I thought, okay, that fits me. Courage. I like to think I'm a strong person. I'm always there to protect my family. Trying to do anything I can to make sure that they have everything that they need. Uniqueness. I'd like to think I'm pretty unique. I'm probably not. I mean, there's probably lots of people like me out there. I like to think that I have lots of compassion. Sense of humor. I do have a very witty sense of humor and kind of a dark sense of humor too. It just depends on which mood you're going to get me in to find out about that one there. But those are some of the core values. I started writing those down. Now those took forever, and to get all the values that, once I started writing them down and it started to come a little bit easier, but it still didn't come overnight. It still wasn't easy. You would think that, okay, this is me. This is the makeup of me. It's like I should be able to just, pull out the Rolodex out of my head there and flip through the cards and say, oh yeah, here's my beliefs, here's my likes, here's my dislikes, and everything else. But it wasn't that easy. Maybe it'll be easy for you guys to be able to do that, but for me it wasn't. It was a fight to figure out who I was and everything that I believed in and who I was there for. But those are some of the core values that I figured out, who makes me me. But it was like, you shouldn't have to work that hard to figure it out. But one thing that I vowed, once I started figuring all of that out, one thing that I vowed to myself is I would never lose those again. I need to know what my self-worth is, what my value is, because I kept changing for everybody and I gave up. I lost who I was. I completely lost. I mean, it was a blank slate. If you were to pull out anything out of me and stuff there, and it says, this is what makes Sean up, you would have saw nothing but a blank page. I mean, if you were to open a brand new Word document and you got the little cursor flashing in the upper left-hand corner with nothing on the page, that is literally what you would have found about me. And that's where I was starting. And it honestly, it terrified me. So I had to actually start rebuilding to find out who Sean was. I mean, I was like, okay, what makes me me? What are my likes? So then I had another column, my likes and my dislikes. And my dislikes weren't too bad. I mean, the first one, as scary as it is, first thing that I wrote down, veggies. I don't like vegetables. So that is, as strange as it is, that was a dislike. So I put that down as a dislike. My likes, chocolate. So I went right to the food, but it gave me a place to get started, to find out, okay, this is what makes me me. And that, it took time. And honestly, by the time I was figuring out all of this stuff and getting down to who I was, it took probably almost a year and a half to get all this going in the right direction. Because I was coming off the divorce, I was coming on, trying to get the new house in place, taking care of my son, putting all of this stuff in. I put so many different things that needed to be done in the way of my own health, my own mental health, my own just just who I was. So, I mean, I took time, and that's when I found out, and I started reading into more about what's it mean to be a Taurus. And I started reading into what's it mean to be a Life Path 9. So I started working into that one there. And some people made fun of me because I started looking to the stars to find out, okay, yeah, astrology's out there, but I didn't know where else to look. And once I started reading some of that stuff, it was like, holy cow, this is me. It's like I was looking at it on the screen, and it was like, that's me. And it started to make sense to me a little bit more. And it was like, okay, this is good. This is giving me a place to get started and learn who I am. And by doing that started to understand. It's like my value level went from like a minus 100 and it started moving up into the positives. It took time because, like I said, most introverts, all we want to do is make people happy. We're not interested in conflict. Now, I do know some introverts that are there, and I respect them, and they're amazing to be able to stand toe-to-toe in conflicts and stand their ground. I can do that. 99% of the time, I just want to make people happy, and I'll walk away and let things go because it's just like, I just don't want to do this conflict. That 1% of the time will make up for the other 99% of the time that I walk away. My Taurus, genes kick in at that point, and then I just get really, really mean, and I don't like being that way. That is a side of me that I keep hidden, and I keep it locked away because I don't want the world to see that. I want the world to see the one that is trying to help people, trying to put a little bit of positivity back into the world, somebody that you want to be around. I try to always have a joke ready to go. That's why I end all the podcasts on a dad joke, because I want it to be positive. I want you to maybe smile a little bit, or if I'm lucky enough, you'll laugh at the dad jokes. To me, they're awesome. I love the dad jokes. And I get a lot of compliments on them. But that's just the way I am, because I want to be there for other people. I want to try to help them. I want to try to make things a little bit easier, because there's so many things in this world anymore that want to just suck up all the happiness and the fun out of our lives. So what I try to do is it's my own small little way, and it's my own little podcast, but maybe there's something positive in there that's going to help somebody someday and make things a little bit easier for them. Or maybe you'll think of something, or you see something a different way, or just anything like that to try to help you. But knowing, and I don't change from person to person anymore. But it took me probably 2 or 3 years to get to that point. Now, I'm sure there's some people that are going to be able to make that jump real easy and just, you know what, this is who I am. I know who I am. And I'm proud of you. That's amazing. I so envy you for being able to be that way. That's truly amazing. You blow my mind for being able to be that way. It took me it took me way too long. It took probably 37 years of my life to finally figure out, hey, wait a minute here, this is who I want to be. And once I started to stand my ground a little bit on this is who I am. Now granted, I did lose some friends. I mean, I lost some friends and stuff through the divorce. But I also lost friends there once I started not bending to everybody's will. This is who I am. This is who I'm proud of. And as you listen to me and your speakers there through, on this podcast, you're hearing the genuine side of me. There's nothing, I'm not making anything up. This is who I am. This is who I'm proud to be. I like being there for people. I like trying to make people laugh. There's times that I will bring, goodies into work. Anything to try to make things a little bit easier, or if they need to talk, I'll stand after work and talk to them, or if they call me or whatever, that's why I always say, if you have a question or something, you can send it to my Gmail address. I would be more than happy to help you. That's just who I am. And it took me a long time. I mean, I've always been a giver. I don't know any other way. My mom gave me those genes, and I'm proud of how she raised me and how she taught me, and I work very, very hard every day to live up to her expectations, her morals, her beliefs, because those are good ones. Those are what help the world turn around, and I want to preserve them as much as I can. So that I've always known, but there's always, I quit changing from moment to moment, from person to person, from it just is draining. Let's just be honest. I don't have any other word for it. I was trying to think of a good word. There's no other word but draining, because it gets to you after a while. It just gets to be too much, trying to put all these faces on, trying to be what everybody expects you to be. Now, if there's anything that I can do for my friends, I'm always there for them. But the one thing that they had to start understanding, and like I said, I lost some friends due to this. This is me. I had to basically reinvent myself and find out, okay, this is who I am. And it took a long time, and I did lose some people in my life, and I regret that. It broke my heart when they walked away. But the one thing that is I had spent so many years being somebody that I wasn't, trying to be there for everybody else and changing because that made them comfortable or made them happy. It's not that I don't try to make people happy anymore. I just had to start learning what my value is. What's my self-worth? I mean, I know that sounds selfish, but I try to never ever be narcissistic, selfish, self-absorbed, anything like that. I try not to be that way because that doesn't get you anywhere. Karma will level the playing field there and let you know, hey, you oopsie-daisy, you did something wrong, you need to fix this. And that was probably one of the things that I saw the most was as I was going through this transition of finding out who I was and everything else, I was able to, as weird as it is to say, I was able to look in the bathroom mirror and I started to be more comfortable and be happy with the person that was looking back at me. And let me tell you, that is such a relief, is when you're not, I mean, there's nothing worse than looking at yourself in the mirror and you're going, ugh, I don't like what I see. I don't like what I hear. I don't like nothing about that person that's looking back at me. And that's the way I was for so many years. And I had to learn, okay, if that's not what I like, if that's not what I like looking back at me, then I got to make changes. And I need to stick to those changes, whatever those changes may be, and whatever the consequences that may come of it when I make that decision, say, okay, this is who I am. So one of the very first things that I wanted to know is I went and I looked for the definition of staying true to yourself. And this is what I found. Being true to yourself means thinking and acting in ways that align with your own values and feelings, rather than the values of others. If you're living true to yourself, you feel confident in your identity, and you are pursuing goals that you know that will lead you to your own happiness. I looked at that and I go, yeah, that's great. That's a wonderful bunch of words. How do I make it happen? and I didn't have that answer right away. And like I said, this wasn't something that happened overnight by any way, shape, or form. I mean, it took time to figure all of this stuff out. So I went to, and I found this a while ago, and it was actually pretty cool because I was trying to come up with how to value yourself. I was trying to figure out, and this website helped me. It's from Lori Desheen on Tiny Buddha website, and it's a neat little website that I've been checking out and stuff and learning from, because I'm trying to stay true to myself. And she came up with a bunch of different things that it helps you establish the value of yourself. And I want to thank Lori so much for coming up with this list. This is an amazing list, and she put it's obvious she put a lot of time and soul into this one here, because these are incredible. And I don't typically go off of what I find on the website, and I don't typically just read verbatim, but some of these are amazing. So I wanted to share this because you guys are my family, and I want to give you all the tools possible to be the best person that you can. So the first one that she came up with is, you're honest with yourself about what you think, feel, want, and need. And she's right there. You have to be honest with yourself before you can be honest with anybody else. And that means you have to go back to the books like what I've been talking about and examine your core beliefs and find out who you are. If you can't make yourself happy and you don't like yourself, nobody else is going to want to be around you. Nobody else is going to, can do the fixing or make you the better person. You have to actually make those steps. And I thought that was so perfect, is being honest with yourself. And that actually is harder to do than you think. You would think it would be very, very simple, because I try to be very honest and trustworthy. Well, I always try to, never tell a lie. I mean, we all oops once in a while, and we we lie once in a while, whether it's in just a small lie to protect somebody's feelings, or just something just to cover up things. But for the most part, being honest with yourself is so very difficult, because it's kind of like, okay, this is who I am. Why do I need to continually sacrifice who I am for everybody else. And that's not being selfish. I mean, that is actually a really, really hard question to answer. Like I said, these questions, these were the ones that I've grappled with. And it took me a long time to be able to answer them. But once you start answering them and you start accepting those answers and start putting them into practice, you'll be surprised on actually how fast your life will turn around. Now, you know, like me, I lost some friends, I lost some acquaintances while I was going through this and learning who I was. But it was a sacrifice I had to make because I couldn't keep running the way I was running anymore. It was too draining. It just wasn't me, and I wanted to be me. And that's surprisingly, that's harder to do than you think. But once you start putting yourself first once in a while, it does actually get a little bit easier. The second thing that she came up with was you freely share your thoughts and feelings. That's tough because we all know that in this day and age that if you say something wrong, then it's going to hit social media and everything's going to blow up and everybody's going to, you know, I mean, it was a lot simpler back in the days when I was growing up in elementary school where it was just your classmates that would make fun of you. Now you have an entire world out there that can put in comments. So it makes it really, really hard and super scary to share your thoughts and feelings. But if you can't do that, you can't be afraid of judgment or just basically trying to stay to yourself. You have to. I'm not saying that you have to go out there and hold up a banner or rent a billboard or anything like that there. But with the people that you care about and they care about you and they're part of your circle, freely sharing your thoughts and feelings is a good thing. That way they know who you are. It helps them understand more your beliefs and where you come from. They kind of see where you stand, and that's a great thing because that allows you to be you so much more. So when you say you like this or you don't like this, or you know you would rather go do this or whatever the circumstance calls for, talking about your thoughts and feelings is huge. And I know you can't do that with everybody and you can't do it all the time, but knowing that sometimes what your thoughts are and your feelings is going to garner some negative reactions. And I know that for a fact because I've gotten some negative reactions for my podcast. It's like everything I do in here is positive, so I'm not quite sure how you're getting a negative out of all of this stuff here, but people still do. So it's scary to talk about your thoughts and feelings, but if you can find yourself a solid inner circle of friends and family that you can talk to, it makes it easier. Then they know where you're coming from. It makes things a little bit easier. You honor your needs and say no to the requests that conflict with them. This one here, oh my goodness sakes, I have to admit, this number 3, I am still working on. I'm 49 years old. You honor your needs and you say no to requests that conflict with them. For me to say no, it's huge. It's so very difficult for me because, like I said, I'm a people pleaser and I want to help every single person I absolutely can, and I want to be there for every person that I can. So to honoring my needs, I understand that point, and I try to be very close. I have gotten better about that. I will admit that is okay. This is where I stand. This is my needs, and it is getting a little bit better because you need to know what you feel physically, mentally, and emotionally, so that way you're balanced. So you have to prioritize those things, and even if that means saying no to other people. And I hate saying no. It absolutely drives me teetotal and crazy to say no. But unfortunately, there are times that you just have to, because it's like, these are my beliefs. You know, this is where I stand. And sometimes you have to draw a line in the sand and stand by your decision. And it doesn't make you popular at times, and it's going to make sometimes you're out there all by yourself. But one thing that I've learned is when you start doing that and you stick to your core beliefs, you know your self-worth. Your self-worth skyrockets so fast. I couldn't tell you how many times I've walked a lonely road by myself because this is something I'm not going to give in. I'm not going to lie to somebody. I'm not going to steal from them. I'm not going to say something just to make them feel better. There are just some absolutes that I'm not going to bend on anymore. I used to bend on every single one of them. I actually, before my son was born, I actually had no backbone. I just bent whatever way the wind was blowing, whatever somebody needed. All I did was just, yep, okay, let's do it. Yep, we'll just do it that way. It doesn't matter if I get hurt in it. It doesn't matter if I get used in it, whatever. Actually, it was my son that's when things started to turn around in my life, because I knew I had to protect him. And it wasn't just a matter of protecting, I needed to raise him. And I had to figure out which beliefs and how was I going to raise him, because I wanted him to turn out to be the best person that he could and try to give him the best advantages in life that I absolutely could. I didn't know how to do it. Nobody knows how to be a parent when you start out. There's no manual that says do this, don't do this. I mean, it is all trial and error, and kids don't understand that while growing up. And I didn't understand that about my parents until I become a parent. And it's like, oh man, where did this come from? How is this? Okay, I don't understand. It's like, what? Why are we making this up? So, you know, my mom was the biggest asset for me for learning about how to raise my son, because in the process, my son made me a better person. I got stronger. I grew a spine. I stood up to people. I started gaining ground. I still changed from the moment, though. I changed from friends to friends to family. You know, I never quit doing that, but I started to gain on my core beliefs a little bit, and that helped. So it's rare, but I do say no. But I try not to any more than I don't have to. Another one that really bums us introverts out, no arguments here, is some people like you, some people don't. And you have to be okay with that. And I have to admit that is a very, I struggled with this up to about 2 years ago. That's when I started, well, not quite 2 years ago. That's when I started my weight loss journey. A lot of my thinking, a lot of my ways of doing things, I completely changed. I didn't touch my core beliefs. That did not change. Those will not change. I know who I am. I'm proud of who I am, and those will never change. Nothing can make me divert from them. But I always wanted everybody to like me, but to do that, sometimes it's just not possible, because there's just some people that just don't. And I had to become okay with that, and I have to be honest, as an introvert, that broke my heart when somebody didn't like me. So then I would go and I would work harder to try to win their trust, or to get them to like me, and just to be accepted. And I had to learn that doesn't always work. I can't get every person to like me. So this one I struggled with too, that some people like me and some people didn't. And now it's okay if you don't like me. I've gotten to that point to where, okay, I will do everything I can to try to be, you know, somebody that you like, somebody that'll be there for you or whatever. But at some point I have to protect my good energy, and I just have to walk away. And it's a hard one. It is so very difficult to try to do that one there. But another one that she came up with was surround yourself with people who respect and support you as you are. And that's why I lost a lot of friends, and that's what hurt when they walked away. But what I realized is these are the people I want around me, because they accept me for who I am. And that's hard to find in this day and age, but that's why I keep my circle so small, is because those people that are in that circle accept me for who I am, and I accept them exactly for how they are. I'm not trying to change them. I'm not trying to, you know, make them better or anything. I'll support them in anything that they want. I will do everything I can to make them happy. But, you know, at some point there, you have to be accepted for who you are. It's difficult, and sometimes, like me, I didn't know who I was. I had to learn who I was before I could have other people accept me, and I finally got to that point. It took a while. Like I said, it took a lot of years. It took a lot of decades to finally figure that one out. There's so many more on this list and stuff here to get through, but there's something I wanted to talk about too. It's the benefits when you're honest with yourself. And there's 3 huge benefits that I figured out, and I want to talk about them before I run out of time here, because I'm trying to watch the clock a little closer than I normally do to make sure I space this out right. But some of the benefits, and these are true, these I have to admit, all of these are very true, and they helped me after I settled in and I figured, okay, this is who I am, here's my core beliefs. All right, now, what am I going to get out of this by, and it's kind of sad to say it that way, but you want to make sure that you kind of get some of the fruits of your labor out of it. And one of the benefits that I found right out of the shotgun is I felt happier. And I know that sounds funny, but honestly, the relief of the stress from not changing from person to person and being somebody that I wasn't constantly, oh my goodness sakes, knowing that, okay, this is me, I'm not changing, and I'm proud of who I am and how far I've come and how I've accepted myself, I'm a lot happier. And it was a genuine happy. I mean, it was like, I really, really am. I'm not just saying this just to say it. I truly am happy. And one thing that I learned is I was able to make other people happier because of it, because I knew who I was. They knew who I was. They knew what I believed in. These are the principles that I live by. These are the core values that I live by, and they could find out if it aligned with theirs. And once they realized that it did, it was amazing. Then you can make each other happy. You enjoy doing more things together, which leads into the next thing that I figured out, which was my relationships were a lot healthier. They were a lot better. It wasn't so, and like I said, this didn't happen overnight. This isn't something that you just go in and flip a switch on the wall and have it happen. But one thing that I found is because when I accepted me for who I am and I quit changing for everybody, my relationships actually got better. They got stronger. I let the right people in, which we all know is very difficult to do. As introverts, we don't open up to people. We just don't. We keep to ourselves. We keep locked off, and it makes it real difficult to try to find a healthy relationship. But given time, I did find them, and I have an amazing family and friends that are around me now. I am truly blessed for the people that I have around me. I look forward to our Friday nights. They're there. I know for a fact, if I had any problems, so I had, God forbid, my truck break down, or something, something bothered me, or I needed to go pick something up, I know without a doubt that those core people that are in my life, they would drop everything they have and be right there in a hot second. I don't even question that, because they know I would do the exact same thing for them. I would do the same thing for their family members and everybody. That's how much they mean to me. And those are the people it took a long time to find these people. But I gotta say, it was worth looking, because they take care of me, I take care of them, and it's really, really nice. And we're all introverts, which is really nice. So we all understand where we're coming from. So when we say, hey, no, I'm not coming over today because I need this time off and I need to recharge, none of us question it. It's like, hey, we got you. You go do you and whatever you need to do to feel better. We understand that, and we accept them for who they are. And that is so incredible when you can get to that point with people and allow those right people into your life. It's kind of like, wow, this works. This is really cool. It's like, I should have done this sooner. Well, I didn't know who I was sooner. It took a lot of years to figure out who I was. But my relationships are so much stronger and so much healthier, and they're so much better for me. They're not so toxic. And I've went through my fair share of toxic relationships. It just gets to you after a while. So that was another thing. And the other thing that I found for me, and I could be all wrong, and I hope these work out for you too, to be very honest, is when you know who you are, and you have those core beliefs, and you have those values, making decisions is so much easier. And what I mean by that is when you understand what your values are and who you are, making a decision is actually so much easier, because there's nothing to conflict with. Because if it's like, okay, well, I would like to, go do this, but this is going to conflict. This might make me angry, or this might go against where I just don't like going to a bar, or there's too many people. Let's be honest, we're introverts. I gauge on, okay, how many people are going to be at this fiesta, and I want to know. I mean, if there's too many people, I can't go. It's too overwhelming, and it's too much no matter what you do. And it makes, once you start figuring out what makes you tick and who you are and your values, making decisions actually got a lot easier. And that was a huge one for me. Is like, I've always been able to make decisions. I've been a manager for 3 decades. I could make decisions, no problems whatsoever. I can make managerial decisions, but sometimes it would come up to where, because you get a conflict of, okay, I want to make these people happy, I want to please them, I want to be there for them. But the problem is, it conflicts with a couple of my beliefs. So how do I do that? And in the past, I would always not worry about my beliefs and do whatever it took to make those people happy and be there for them. And like I said, by doing that, and basically by not having a backbone, because I was, I just basically bent with the wind. Whatever people wanted, that's who I was, and that's what I did. I lost myself, and it felt so good. And like I said, it was a long, long road to get to where I am today and find out who I am and be comfortable in my own skin and be happy with who I see in that mirror. Now, I don't like mirrors. I have a phobia about mirrors. I don't like them. I can't stand them. But one thing that I do is every morning when I'm brushing my hair, I look and I genuinely look into my eyes and say, okay, am I happy with who's looking back at me today? And if there's any doubt, if there's anything saying, no, I don't, or, I don't feel right about this decision, or I don't feel right about something I said, and it brings me down a little bit, then I go and change it. I fix it. I apologize. I do whatever it takes to get myself back to 100% at that person looking back at the mirror with me, because I want to make sure that I'm doing the right things. I want to make sure that I'm treating everybody with respect. I'm there for them. I'm supportive. And I can't do that unless I'm running at 100% where I'm comfortable with myself. And once you start heading down that road and figuring it out, it's amazing how much better you feel. I honestly cannot tell you the difference, because honestly, this world demands so much out of us introverts, because they expect us to be able to get up on the stage and talk to somebody, or let's go around the room and tell us a little bit about ourselves. We all know as an introvert that line right there will almost put you right into a heart attack, because we can't stand those questions. We don't want to open up to people, but we do want to open up to the right people. We want to talk to the right people. We want to laugh. We want to joke. We want to go out and have supper together with the right person. And once you start figuring out what your core beliefs are, your values, and who you are, and you don't give in on them, you'd be surprised on how much better you feel and how much better your life is. And I didn't realize how off kilter my life was when I didn't follow those values and those goals. I mean, it was like, okay, now I'm standing up for what I believe in. I'm still not, I'm still overly pleasing. That's all I want to be there. Obviously, I'm talking to you guys on a podcast because I want to help every one of you out there. I want to be there for you. I want you to know you're not alone. You have me, and I want to be there. I want to be a cheerleader, and I want to help you whenever you need it. And even if it's just positive thoughts or positive words that I can send your way, if I can take a little stress off of your day, make things a little bit better, that's what I want to do. And that's who I am. And I don't want to ever go back to the point where I was so negative and so hostile and so mean. There was for about 5 years, I was super, super dark. I was a black hole. It was bad. And it wasn't until I sat down and started figuring all of this stuff out and finding out who I was, that all of that darkness went away. And now I'm a completely different person. And I've been told that many, many times. And I'm proud of it. So I'm trying to use that positivity, that light, and give back to this very, very dark world. And if the only way that I can do it to try to make the world better is through a podcast, then that's what I'm going to do, because I want to be there for you guys. You guys have been wonderful in supporting me, liking my show, subscribing to my YouTube channel, making comments. You guys call in with your dad jokes. So it tells me you guys are listening and you like the show. So that gives me even more energy to continue to go out and try to talk to as many people as I can and try to make their lives a little bit better, because there's so many people out there that's trying to suck the fun and the joy right out of our lives. And I don't want to do that. Us introverts have enough challenges as it is. And it's hard enough to get through the day without losing who we are when there's so much demanded out of us. But all I know is I can tell you this is, go back to your core beliefs, figure out what it is, figure out your likes, your dislikes, your values, and stick to them. Even when it makes you walk alone along the road of life, or it just doesn't feel like anybody's there for you, trust me, I'm here and I will do everything I can to support you and help you along the way. If you have questions, you're welcome to email me at seangmorris@gmail.com. I'll try to help wherever I can. That's what I like doing, and I want to try to help. You guys are my extended family out there, and I want to be there for you as much as I possibly can. So I'm kind of noticing by the time on the wall, I think I planned this about right, so we're I'm about out of time. So just all I can say before is you got this. I'm so proud of each and every one of you out there. You guys are amazing. It's hard as an introvert to get through the day. I'm not going to lie about that. But hang on to who you are. Keep listening to my podcast, and I'll try to keep giving you all the positivity that I absolutely can. While you're doing that and while you're liking this, please tell everybody about the podcast. Like my Facebook page. Subscribe to my YouTube page. Get all the updates and everything else there when a new show comes out. So hopefully there's something there that you can look forward to. But share this information with your friends, your family. Tell everybody that you can. Your college roommates, your whoever. I mean, it's just whoever you can tell. I really appreciate it because I want to help as many people as I can and try to make their days a little bit better. So I see that we're now officially out of time, and that is going to lead us into our favorite and everybody's wonderful part of the favorite part of the podcast. Let's be honest there. The dad joke of the day. You know I'm not going to let you get away without a dad joke of the day. So if you're ready to go, here's today's dad joke of the day. Did you hear about the two artists that had an art contest? It ended in a draw. I read that and I about fell out of my chair. I love that one. Let the groaning and the eye rolls begin. Thank you so much, everybody. You guys are amazing. Thanks for listening to my podcast. Thanks for being a part of it. And tell everybody that you can. And as always, all my love and support, Sean.